So what is it? How do you? Because everybody has a different definition of what a superstar is.
For sure.
Some people say there's a list of 6. Some people have a list of 12. And so how would you define what a superstar is?
I think that there aren't that many superstars.
How many are there?
I'm kind of in that. I would say 6.
What?
Superstars. I think there's a lot of stars. I have probably more stringent criteria of what I think a superstar is. Because then you'll start naming them, and then you say, well, is this player actually in the same category as a LeBron or Steph? And so if you have those two people as kind of what your marker is, what other players are in that tier? Do you get what I'm saying?
I'm almost afraid to ask you, is this person a superstar?
Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is Alex, and after watching the interview with Taylor Rooks and Jason Tatum, it had me thinking about the definition of a NBA superstar. Seriously, what is it? Like Tatum said, it is subjective, and there are plenty of different ways people could define or perceive a superstar player. Some people have strict rules, and some people don't. From what I've seen over the years of following the NBA, there are some pretty common questions to this conversation, and I want to address them to see if we can figure out what a superstar is. The first question is, does a superstar have to average a certain amount of points? Well, yes, but there isn't an exact number, and I think winning matters as well. Overall, there's just a lot more to just scoring the basketball, so I think that does play a factor in whether a player is a superstar or not. Does it matter if the player is box office? Are they going to sell tickets? For some people this does matter, but to me, this doesn't really matter at all, and it should really just be about how good you play. And I mean, if you're really good, the ticket sales are just going to come with it, but I don't think you have to define a superstar based off how many tickets they're able to sell. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Is it a player who makes an All-NBA team? While most superstars do make the All-NBA team, there are some players who would make the All-NBA team, but we probably wouldn't consider them a superstar. For example, this last season, Luka Doncic, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, they were all in the All-NBA team. However, Pascal Siakam also was, and I'm pretty sure we wouldn't consider him as a superstar. I know I wouldn't. Do you have to be an All-Star or All-NBA recipient for multiple years? And to add on to that, does longevity matter to this conversation? Luka Doncic in just his 3rd season to me could have been considered a superstar, but for some people, they would say he shouldn't be because he was only in year 3. For me, if you are that good to be a superstar, I think you should be in that conversation for superstar. Those accolades like All-NBA and All-Star teams will only come with being a superstar, so longevity to me doesn't really matter, and all those awards just kind of justify us thinking that they are a superstar, but I don't think it's a requirement. In my opinion, these are all understandable questions to ask, but I personally think that a superstar player is a player who could be the definitive best player on a team that gets to the conference finals or finals. They also need to be impactful on both ends of the court. Now, why am I including the conference finals? Well, then the list would not include some names I think most definitely should be considered. For example, if we look back around 2018 and 2019 for James Harden, he was able to lead the Rockets to the conference finals, but as everyone knows, he was unable to make it to the finals because he played the KD Warriors. That was pretty much Harden's peak, so it would be crazy not to have him as a superstar when he clearly was. Now, based on that definition, who are some players that would match that criteria? Well, to name the obvious, we have Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, Luka, and Kawhi, of course, when he's healthy. With the obvious out of the way, I think we are missing some. What about this guy? What about that guy? Okay, definitely not him. To be serious now, I think Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, and Damian Lillard, when he's healthy, are also superstars based off my definition. Based on my definition of a superstar, my list would include 11 players that have either led a team to the conference finals or the finals, and they're still in their primes compared to those teams that they led. Looking at this list, and I think it's pretty fair. Now, you were probably wondering why I don't have Devin Booker or Chris Paul since they just made a finals run. Well, that's when the word definitive comes into play. I can't confidently say that Booker or CP3 were the best players on the finals team, and after the last season when I think Booker was the definitive best player, they didn't make it to the conference finals, so I personally don't think they make the cut. What about Moran? He's obviously good enough to be on the list, but he also didn't make the conference finals. Well, him not making it to the conference finals is why he isn't on my superstar list, but he most certainly will join the table once he and the Grizzlies progress a little bit more. What about Trey Young? He made the conference finals as the best player on his team, and he even beat Embiid, who is on that superstar list. Well, although Trey is a great offensive player, his defense holds him back from joining this list in my opinion. With all that being said, I still think my definition of a superstar player is flawed, with many players like Moran and Trey Young being so borderline that I could see why people would think they're superstars, because in better circumstances, they could most definitely be the best players on a contending team. However, there's just better teams with better players, similar to the Harden example I gave earlier, and I think this just shows how hard it is to come up with a definition of a superstar. That's why when we're evaluating players and ranking them, we should really put them in tiers outside of calling them a superstar or a star or just an all-star or even role player, and allow players to be fluid and be able to change different tiers depending on how well they play throughout every season. Because our league is so talented at this point that making the finals or even the conference finals is harder than ever before, so there are going to be players that don't make my superstar list simply because my definition of a superstar is kind of limited. If we did this, it would allow for, I think, a better conversation surrounding our players, and I think it would not limit certain players into a box. But hey, what do I know? This was a very interesting topic to dive into, so if you enjoyed, make sure that you like and sub. Let me know what you thought about my definition of a superstar, and if you would have your own, what is it? All my socials are in the Linktree link below in the description, along with my podcast channel, so if you're interested, go check that out. Anyways, I'll see y'all later. Peace out.